Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to Gridiron Genius. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 32 fantasy QBs. In this video, I'm just going to be predicting on where I think these guys will finish during the year. And I'm also going to be dropping my running back, wide receiver, and tight end rankings, so subscribe if you want to see those. Obviously, week 1 ranks would be different just depending on matchups. But yeah, let's just jump right into the S tier. And the first guy I have in the S tier is none other than Lamar Jackson. He outscored Josh Allen by 50 points, and that can really make a big difference in a lot of matchups. So that's the reason I have him over Josh Allen. Obviously, he has an elite rushing ability, and he averaged the most yards per attempt at 8.8 in the NFL last year, followed by guys like Jared Goff and Brock Purdy. So, Lamar is just a fantastic fantasy option. I mean, the Ravens team is very similar. I know Isaiah likely suffered an injury and will be out a few weeks, but that should not affect Lamar really in any way. They still have Zay Flowers, still have Rashad Bateman, still have Mark Andrews. So yeah, Lamar's going to be fantastic. And, same with the MVP. Josh Allen, I mean, what makes him so great is that receiving room is bad. He still was the QB2 last year. I mean, he has that elite rushing ability that really only 3-4 guys have in the whole entire NFL. Just comparing how, he only had 6 interceptions, comparing that to his rookie year, just how he's evolved as a QB and really turned down his turnover rate has really made him such a great player. Not much you can really say about these guys in the S tier just because it's pretty obvious. I mean, if you flip these two guys around in your rankings, I'd completely understand. Just, honestly, it's just personal preference. But let's just go to the A tier. I have 2 guys in this tier, and the first guy I have is, Jaden Daniels. What more can you ask from rookie? He has that elite rushing ability I was talking about. Only a few guys have. The only thing that really bumps him down is I don't know what's going to happen with Terry. And if Debo is the wide receiver 1 going into the season, I'm not happy with that. So, that's why he's here. He gets it done. Obviously, he had the injury last year, which, set him back a little bit, but he honestly probably could have finished higher in fantasy, but he's still the QB5. So a lot to like about Jaden Daniels. I mean, I just want to see him do it again, just to prove that he can be this, insane fantasy QB every year. I don't think he'll be, too bad. I don't think he'll go into that big of a sophomore slump unless, that Terry situation does not resolve itself. And here's a Super Bowl champ in the A tier. He gets free points just from his tush push. He was a QB8 last year, but he also had, the best rusher on his team. To finish as the top 10 QB, and to have Saquon on your team is honestly very impressive. And I honestly feel like the Eagles are going to be in tougher games this year, and they're going to rely on the pass more. So Jalen Hurts will definitely benefit from that, and that will definitely improve his fantasy ceiling. So yeah, I mean, I'm also a little worried about Saquon. I hope he doesn't get injured, but when a player gets that many touches each season, and Saquon has a history of injuries, it obviously scares me, but let's not speak that into existence. But let's go to the B tier. This is where in the list, if I don't get one of these top guys, I normally wait and try to get a value QB. But here's another guy who's still very solid, Joe Burrow. I mean, he's the best fantasy receiver on this team. They just re-signed T. Higgins. Very similar situation. He had 43 touchdowns last year, finished as the QB3. That defense is still horrible. They're still going to be in, pass now games. Chase Brown will be utilized in the passing offense. Burrow will be an amazing fantasy quarterback, to say the least. It's just, I'd rather get a RB2 or whatever during this range because they really go fast now. But Burrow, still a great option if he's your QB. And here's a guy who's kind of disappointed last year. He's a QB12. He's not what he once was, where he's that top 3 guy anymore. But Rashid Rice was injured. I know he will, face a suspension this year, but we still don't know what part of the season yet, so it's kind of hard to plan if you have him on your teams. That's why I'm really not drafting Rice. But Mahomes, he still could be a solid fantasy play. He has that connection with Rice. Obviously, Worthy's still there. Travis is old, but he still will be utilized if you like it or not. What does kind of scare me is Pacheco was injured last year and Mahomes was still in the QB12. I don't think the Chiefs will have a cakewalk like they did last year, getting all those wins. So Mahomes will have to do a little more. But here's a guy who I have way higher than a lot of people. I have him as a QB7, but he's going around like the QB 14, 13. But to me, Dak is just the most obvious, underrated player. And he's one of my favorite value options as QB. If I wait to get a QB, I'm taking Dak 95% of the time. Last year, he was the QB 32, but that's because he had an injury. And this running game is just not good. Javonte Williams is not good. And Dak, 2 years ago was a top 3 QB. He's still a CD. And now they have George Pickens. So the passing offense is going to be insane. I honestly think Dak is a dark horse to lead the league in passing touchdowns. So I'd feel very happy if Dak is your QB because you probably got him at a major steal. Now we're going to the C tier. There's a lot of guys in this tier, so I'll give you guys a second to look at it. And the first guy we have is Bo Nix. There's a lot to like about Bo Nix, and you should be very happy if you're a Broncos fan. I mean, he didn't really start playing well until the second half of the season, and when he did, he was really good. I mean, obviously excluding the playoff game, but Sutton, great receiver. And now they have Evan Ingram, and I'm really excited to see how Sean Payton will use him. I mean, I know they have RJ Harvey, but, Dobbins is still the RB1 there for now. But, Bo Nix could be an amazing QB. Finished as a QB7 last year, and it was cool to see him progress over the games he played. So, yeah, I mean, Bo Nix, happy about him. Here's a guy who I think will regress a little bit. He was a QB4 last year. Baker Mayfield lead 41 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, he's still injured. I know they have Mbuka. I like Mbuka. I'm taking him. He's a nice, draft steal. But Baker, he's not a nice draft steal. I think he's going to regress. When he's on the Browns, he usually finished right around the middle of the pack for QBs. I think that's what he's going to kind of go back to doing. I don't know if Mike Evans will get 1,000 yards this year. I mean, I hope he does, just because, it's kind of cool. He always does, but this could be the first year he doesn't. I mean, he almost did it last year. I guess we'll just have to see how Baker does. To me, his ADP is just not good, because it's not like a short thing. He's going to finish top 5, so I'm not going to draft him around that range. If there's really no one else and you really are like a big Bucs fan, I guess, but I'm just passing on him. Honestly, there's a lot to like about Purdy. I have him right in my 10th slot. He finished as a QB 13 last year, and the 49ers were not good last year. And he's still a top 13 QB, so that's not bad. And now he gets the best player in his offense back in CMC, and there's a lot to like about Purdy. Obviously, the receiving game is not what it once was when they had Debo and Ayuk, but they still have Kittle. I think Ricky will be the wide receiver one in that offense. Jennings is a little injured, but he'll still play. The 49ers have the easiest schedule in the NFL, so that definitely can help Purdy, definitely can help CMC. A consistent option. Here's someone who is a little more risky, but he has a nice rushing floor. He's one of the, top rushers behind Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Justin Fields. I forget exactly what he finished at when he was starting. I think he was around 7. He finished as a QB 31, but that's obviously because Russell Wilson came in for him later in the season. I don't really think that he'll face another QB coming in and stealing his job this year, at least. So there's a lot to like, especially reuniting with Garrett, his former college teammate. Justin Fields definitely could be a good fantasy option. Not, a good NFL option, even though I do like Justin Fields. I'm a personal fan. He's just not, the best passer. Here's someone who's Mr. Consistent. Justin Herbert finished as the QB 11 last year. I have him moving down a spot, QB 12. He always finds a way just to give you a solid 16, 17 points each year, each game. But I'm just scared about Ladd. He's an injury-prone receiver, whether you like it or not. We already seen a little bit in training camp, and we've seen a lot in college, but I feel like people want to just forget that just because he didn't get injured last year. So, yeah, I mean, you can, take Herbert. You kind of know what you're getting. You get a safe floor. And here's a guy, Caleb Williams, who needs to step it up, to be honest. He was a QB 16 last year, and he just didn't take enough chances. He only had 6 interceptions. That's a good thing about Caleb is he didn't turn over the ball. We still don't know who's going to be the wide receiver one in this offense. Will it be Rome? Will it be DJ? I'm not completely sure, but I know Caleb will obviously play better than last year just because that team was not it. I mean, they have Ben Johnson now, so, there's a lot to like about Caleb. I think a good value option, along with this guy, Drake May, to me, who's one of the best value options. I think he was a top 4 rusher in some of the last weeks of the NFL season. If he can keep that up, he could finish easily probably top 12 fantasy QB. He also now has an upgrade in the wide receiver room with Stephon Diggs. He should be good to go after the injury. So now he's a better receiver room, and now they have a better running back in Henderson. So honestly, the Pats are a sleeper of a team. So don't be surprised if Drake May outperforms his ADP. Here's a guy that I'm not as high on as everyone else. I know Kyler finished as a QB 10 last year, but to me, he doesn't have that ceiling the other guys have. That's why I have him ranked here. I don't think he's going to be a bad QB necessarily, but he doesn't have that ceiling. I don't know if he's going to finish as the QB 15 necessarily. Could finish higher than that. But to me, he's just not an accurate quarterback. I don't know if he can give Marvin Harrison Jr., the targets the accuracy he really needs to succeed. Obviously he has a good rushing abilities. He has a good pocket presence. I don't know if it's the height you just can't see over players or what necessarily, but I just avoid Kyler. And here's a guy who I think might regress, Jared Goff. Now that Gibbs is fully broken out, the Lions definitely could rely on the run a lot more. And, we could see Goff regress. Obviously, that O-line, it's not the same. And they lost Ben Johnson. That's going to affect the team, losing your offensive coordinator, especially the first few weeks. I think that Goff could get better as the season goes on, but those first few weeks, I'm trying to not start Goff if I have him on any of my teams. I think he's a good backup QB, but if he's my QB1, I'm not very happy with that. And that moves us on to Trevor Lawrence. He's honestly had a very interesting career. I remember in that playoff game versus the Chiefs, I was like, wow, this kid could really, be an amazing QB in the future. And, they almost beat that Chiefs team in the playoffs, and they came back against the Chargers But, last year, obviously, those injury issues, and, I mean, he didn't really get to fully play, with BTJ broken out. I mean, he did, obviously, to start off, but to end the season, he didn't. They were under Mac Jones. And now they have Travis Hunter, so I don't know. I think this team could be very interesting. I mean, Travis Etienne's still the starting back, so I think we could see a situation like we did with the Bucs where Tank breaks out, but that won't be till the second half of the season, so I don't think that should hurt the passing game too much. I mean, it'll be interesting to see like what Liam Cohen can do there now. And here's a player who he's really got a bad luck of the draw. His rookie year, he was looking phenomenal, and everyone thought he was, the next big thing in the NFL. But as it's went on, that O-line is not good. I mean, Nico, I have Nico very high in my wide receiver rankings just because of how many targets he can get, but Tank Dell's out for the whole year. They get Diggs last year, and then they lose him. That's 1 year later, so he only has one man to throw to, and I don't really know if I trust him not turning over the ball. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how that plays out. And here's a guy, Jordan Love. I know he has some current injury issues. I think he should be fine to start week 1. But yeah, I mean, he just turned over the ball a little too much. He could move down in the rankings, sadly, if his wide receivers aren't healthy. I mean, Watson's not healthy. Breed's dealing with an injury. It's just not looking good. Matthew Golden, he's a rookie, so there's like a lot of things to be scared about for Jordan Love. I mean, obviously they still have Josh Jacobs, but they're still going to be a pass-heavy team. They play in a really hard division. They're going to have a tough schedule. So that's why I have him at 19, and he finished at 17 last year. I remember he used to be a top 5 QB just only, what was that, 2 years ago? So, if you can tone down the interceptions, you can definitely move up in my rankings. But just these first few weeks, if the Packers face some injury issues, that could definitely affect Love's performance. And here's a guy who's very interesting. JJ McCarthy. We have not got to see him really play yet in a starting setting. He obviously has Justin Jefferson. He's Jordan Addison, but he's going to be suspended the first few weeks. And he's TJ Hawkinson. That's an elite passing offense. We obviously seen Sam Darnold was able to be a great option in that environment. Obviously, McCarthy is going to be, kind of like a rookie, so don't expect him to really break out. I mean, he'll be solid, but to me, that's why he's number 20. I just think he has like a pretty decent floor just because of his receivers around him. He just needs to really not turn over the ball too much, but he'll probably do that just because basically some starting mistakes. But that's going to wrap up the C tier, and that's going to take us into the D tier. These guys, they're risky. There definitely is not the upside that the tiers above have, but, starting off with Bryce Young. I mean, obviously, we know what he's kind of went through, went from starting to not to starting, and then he looked great. I mean, he's a wide receiver #1 now in Tet. Good value option. Probably the best receiver on that team. But if Bryce can play how he did the second half of the season, then, obviously he'll be moved up in the rankings. But for now, he's got to stay here just because I really need to see it over the full course of the season. He's not the tallest QB either, like Kyler. So I think he'll probably be better than he was last year. But I guess we'll just see how the season plays out with injuries. Here's a guy who's battled injuries more than anyone, Tua, and he finished as 21 last year. Comparing that to only 2 seasons ago when that Dolphins offense was rolling, it's kind of crazy, but that Dolphins energy has just changed completely. Achane suffered an injury. It's questionable if he's going to be ready to go week 1. And Tyreek, he just gives bad vibes. I'm not really drafting him. And here's another guy I'm not drafting fantasy football. He's old, and we all have heard the reports about his back issues. That's not a good look because of how possible it is that he re-injures that back. I still do like Puka in drafts, and I'm obviously hoping that he does not get re-injured. When you're that old and you're having back issues, it's getting scary. But that passing offense is still elite. They have Devontae and Puka in the same wide receiver room. So if Stafford can stay healthy, he'll be probably a 15-point per game guy. And here's a guy who really, really, really struggled in the red zone. He finishes the QB 14. Imagine how much better he could have been if he really was just able to cap off drives. Obviously, he goes to a whole different situation now. He has Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. So I think that they'll lean to the run. Obviously, they'll still have good offensive weapons when they need them on the passing side of the ball. But, Geno, he just really has always just struggled in the red zone and has turnover issues. So that's why I just have him as 24. And then here we got another unk in Aaron Rodgers. He's not the MVP form that he once was, and that's obvious. That's why I'm at 25. He also could just get injured very easily, as we've seen in the Jets, 4 or 5 plays in. But, he does have DK Metcalf, but, that wide receiver room is not as good as it was on the Jets with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. It's just not. DK likes the deep ball. I don't know if, Rodgers is going to do that necessarily a lot. That Steelers offense is just, I'm not a fan of it, and I'm not drafting a lot of the guys on the Steelers. And here's a guy that I'm not really drafting yet, but I think he could be a good dynasty option. Cam Ward. I know that Cam Ward says that Titans have one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. They don't. Kelvin Ridley, I think, is a good value flex option, but Cam Ward, I think he'll struggle. He's a rookie, so don't be surprised if he does. I mean, I have him at the 26th spot. There's a lot to be excited for if you're a Titans fan. I mean, he's the number 1 pick for a reason, but, he's just not my favorite option. Here's another guy who's really not my favorite option. QB9 last year, but he had probably a top 2 receiver in the NFL, and he does not have that now. I know he's JSN, and JSN can see a lot of targets, and he's Cooper Kupp, but that Seahawks team is not great, and I honestly think that Sam Darnold, maybe he's an upgrade over Geno, maybe, but they're pretty even, so I don't know. I'm just really not a fan of them. And then we go to Michael Penix. He's a dicey guy. Every game he played in, he got better, but we only seen 3 games out of him. I know he has Drake London and Darnell Mooney, so he has good receivers around him. It's just when you have, to me, who's going to finish as the RB1 in fantasy on your team, you lean the run. The Falcons are going to lean the run. Penix is going to make mistakes. So I don't know. I can't justify putting this guy any higher when his sample size is literally as small as it gets. And here is a guy who, Mr. Unlimited, he finishes the 24th QB. He was good up until the new year, then he was horrible. So if he can play like he did the first half of last season, he could be good. But why have him so low is he's a possibility of getting his job taken over. So when I'm putting together on how I think these guys will finish, if he gets his job taken over, that will definitely affect where he finishes in the fantasy QB realm. So that's why I have Wilson here. And then now we're going to go to last tier of the rankings, which is the F tier. I have 3 guys in this ranking. First one is Daniel Jones. He was just announced as a starter just the other day. He definitely could get his job taken over by Anthony Richardson. One mistake, and this guy's probably, on the bench. He's still an okay QB. I mean, last year, it was not it with his final year on the Giants, but the Colts offense, they do have some nice weapons. They have Tyler Warren, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, so they have good receivers. It's just Daniel Jones just really needs to not make mistakes, and if he can not get his job replaced, then he can maybe finish top 25 QBs, but I'm at 30 for now. And here's another guy who could get his job easily taken, Joe Flacco. We know how crowded that Browns QB room is. There's 5 or 6 QBs there. I think they're going to rotate through all the QBs. So don't be surprised if this guy's not even in the top 32 QBs. I'm just, going off starters, obviously. And the final guy on this list, Spencer Rattler. He finishes the QB 41 last year. Yeah, this Saints team could really go 0-16, so he's not going to put up too many points. He'll probably throw a decent amount of interceptions, not too many touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm not taking Spencer Rattler. He also could get his job taken over by Tyler Chuck. So, yeah, none of those guys in the F tier I want, just because there's a high likelihood that they're going to get their job taken over. But, yeah, that's going to wrap up the list. I mean, comment down below what you guys think of the list, what you would change on your list, who's your number 1 fantasy QB you're targeting, and, yeah, thanks for watching.